again, and welcome to War Stories, behind the scenes tales from the front lines of the media. I'm your host, Tom Curley. How are you all today? As you know, we always talk about stuff that went on in our lives in broadcasting, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. Today, we're going to talk about something else, and we're going to be talking about it with my co partner in crime, the inimitable, because I just like to use that word, Mr. Gary Armstrong. Gary, how are you today?
I love that word you just said. Um, it's very polite, and I thank you for that. It's not been said of me before, so I thank you again. How are we doing? I hate to say this because it sounds like wine, 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 but we're both. Maryland is. I think what we're going through is the delayed reaction to getting our most recent COVID vaccination. Maryland for the last couple of days has really, really been feeling bad. And, we just nodded at it. And all of a sudden, I realized yesterday that I also was feeling the same way. So that's what it is. And that's not a lead story. That's not even a middle of the newscast story, but it's what's going on.
Yeah,
How about you
it's
guys?
what's
How are
going
you
on.
doing?
Uh, well, Ellen is sick. She's getting over it. She took a
I,
COVID test. It came out negative, I think. But then again, we just got a flu shot the other day, which normally
right.
Ellen has no reactions to anything, especially COVID. I'm a basket case the day after I get a COVID shot,
Yeah.
and she is perfectly fine. Her arm isn't even sore, but now it could be the reaction to the flu shot. It could be, who knows. But
Who
anyway,
knows? I mean, at this point in time, I hate it when we have eliminated all the obvious suspects, and the doctor normally says, "Well, that's what's going to happen to a fellow of your age." And
I know. I
they
hate
just
that.
pause there. I
Yeah,
hate that of your
yeah,
age.
yeah,
I want to
yeah. Of
just
your
take
age,
my good. I don't know which fist is good, but I want to take maybe both of the fists and smash it into that person
you
of
wanna,
that age. I hate
yes,
that.
you wanna give him a stooge slap.
Here, is it? Oh,
So, all right, here's what I want to talk about. Here's what I want to talk about today, because I got to tell you, this is beginning to really piss me off. All right,
Oh, you
this
can't
show
have
will
that.
air this show will air this Saturday, and at
Good.
Tuesday, which was yesterday, was election day, and
Right.
to everybody's surprise or no one's surprise, the Democrats did very, 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 very well. They overwhelmingly
Right.
passed an amendment in Ohio to keep abortion legal, regardless of how much work the Republicans did to fight it. They changed the language. They made it so that yes would mean no, up is down. Um,
Right.
the Virginia Senate and House have flipped, has stayed Democratic in the Senate and flipped in the House, tanking Glenn Youngkin, who is a MAGA
Yeah.
moron Trump supporter who hides it very well, who thought he was going to take over and now run for president in Mississippi. Mississippi, the incumbent governor
Mississippi.
came close to losing. I mean, they were actually seriously considering a Democrat. Then he lost, but the fact that this was even a story in Mississippi was amazing. So, why do I bring all this up? I bring all this up because while all this is going on as they're announcing all these results at the polls, which is, the only poll that actually counts, the very next thing out of all of their mouths on every damn station, MSNBC, CNN, well, of course, Fox, and of course all the networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, blah, 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 is a
Right.
poll that came out showing that Trump is ahead of Biden in 5 swing states. How could this be happening? And Biden is too old. How can this be happening? I gotta tell you, I've had it. What is wrong with this
Yes.
damn country? So what I want to talk about is two things. One, polls are bullshit. Okay?
Right.
But why are they so important? Because news organizations have to be able to talk about something. And the easiest thing
Yes.
to talk about is a poll. And they love
Yep.
to find a poll that gets everybody upset. Like I'm upset right now. Now,
Right.
a poll that comes out 1 year before an election, a poll that comes out 2 weeks before an election is basically toilet paper. It's a snapshot in
Yes.
time. It means nothing. How many and I'm only saying this because again, I was on the front lines. I was on the air, either directing or doing audio or switching at every election night since Richard Nixon in 1972. Okay? So I've been there.
Right.
And here's something you have to understand. And I really hope everybody takes this to heart. All news organizations, all of them, have to make a political election a horse race. They talk about it
Right.
in horse, it's a competition. It's neck and neck, it's nose to nose, it's too close to call. Oh my God. When Obama was running for re-election in 2011, at this same time, if you look back at the stories, you would find that he had a 61% disapproval rating. Okay? 61% of the country, oh,
Right.
no, no. He had maybe a 50-50 chance, maybe, of winning the election against whoever he was running against. They might not have even nominated Mitt Romney yet. Okay, Nate Silver of
Right.
538 wrote a whole thing. Obama is toast. It's all over with. And of course, he won in a landslide the next year. Um, this reliance on polls and the fact that everybody believes them, and the fact, and here's the other thing that drives me crazy. The day after the election, all the discussion is okay, what happened in the midterms? There was the big red wave. Big red wave. Oh my God, it's they're going to take over everything, and it was a
Yes.
dribble. They won the House by 5 votes or 4 votes. Okay, so then the question was, how could the polls be so wrong? In 2016, after Election Day, all the polls said Hillary Clinton was going to. How could the polls be so wrong? 2020, how could the polls be so wrong? And yet, they'll start it all over again with these polls.
Yes.
It's so,
Uh,
and I will finish my rant about polls. Okay, one, what we found out last year is that you can find a poll that will say anything. You can find a poll that
right.
says the Democrats are up. You can find a poll that says the Republicans are up. So all the big pollsters got smart. They started to aggregate all the polls. Okay, so now it'll even out. And now, well, when you average them all out, that must be true. Except for the fact the Republicans got smart and they started finding all these little micro polls that were heavily skewed in their favor. And these are all thrown
Right.
into the aggregate. And this is why everybody last year in the midterms was talking about how the Republicans were going to win everything because all these polls said so, and they're wrong. And anyway, that's it. It just drives me crazy, and the problem is they're never going to stop. I
They're
turn
not
it
going to
over to you.
stop. And yeah, you know what comes to mind immediately. First of all, we need to say for people who don't quite know who we are, we have been speaking. I've been retired for almost a quarter of a century now. Add on another couple of years, and you've been retired for a few years now. So we're like a generation back as we're talking about the things that are going sideways at this time. But what was going on, what's going on now, what's going on when we were still working. A poll is something that you can easily grab a head of, hold on. It reminds me of the polls that were taken by the station that I worked for, which indicated at one point that hard news, difficult news, complex news was not easily absorbed by viewers. So, according to the polls that were taken by the suits at the station I worked for, those polls indicated that viewers couldn't handle complex stories like the one you're talking about right now. It didn't give viewers a clear picture because this isn't clear. I mean, we have as many different players as we have different matters going on in the country right now. So the people in charge of running the station, be it local or network, they want something very simplistic so that the viewers will understand it. Now we know from because of the people we've talked to that the viewers are not stupid. They don't go just by polls. We were told enough of the stories that the polls are not happy with. Give the viewers something else. So what did they mean? Well, do more happy stories, do more animal stories. So while we were doing animal stories, the other stations were covering the political stories. They were also covering trials, which are really complex. At the beginning of the trial, so and so, who has been arraigned and is now being tried for heinous crimes, it's not that complex. There are a whole bunch of things that add up to whether a person is guilty or not. You can't do this by saying the polls show that Mr. X, Y, and Z has had a checkered career, yada, 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 and the polls show that he's very likely to be found guilty at the end of this trial. We wanted to do this. We were told not to do this. We were told the viewers didn't want this. So I tried on several occasions when I went out on the street to cover whatever the story was. I said, "So, what do you think of the direction that the station is going in the stories that they're covering?" And what I heard more often than not is, "Oh, the animals are cute, but what's the point? We didn't find out from you guys, so we changed to another station. We didn't find out what was the heart of today's trial proceeding. Why did it go in such and such a direction? Is the judge too hard? Is the judge too lenient? Is he being paid off?" And all I could say was, "We were told you were not interested in it." And more often than not, I heard, "That's just a bunch of bullshit." And you can tell your bosses we said that. So this just comes full circle back
Abs-
to you, the polls you're talking about today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's sick, I mean, all right, we've all known that, and I was guilty of this too. In 2016, when the Cheeto Mussolini started running, it was a joke. He was great TV. I actually
Right.
recorded the first Republican debate so that I could fast forward and just listen to what silliness he was going to say because it was funny and he was a big joke. But then it very quickly became he's not a joke, except he was
Right.
great for ratings. I mean, Les Moonves, I think one of the most horrific things I have ever heard on an executive, especially a television executive, say eh, that it was true, was he looked at the camera and he said, Trump may be bad for the nation, but he's great for
But
CBS. And
yeah,
I was appalled. I mean, that guy got literally billions of dollars in free publicity, free press, and it's what helped get him elected. And of course, he's still a ratings grabber because now we're all watching with bated breath to find out when the hell he's going to go to jail. And again, the media, they just eat this up. It's almost like they want him to win because it's better for ratings.
it's
I
better for
mean,
them.
during the 4 years of his reign, or whatever you want to call it, uh, MSNBC's their ratings went through the roof. I mean, he put them
Yeah,
on the map. Fox, on the other hand, their ratings went up, but not really. I mean, the problem with Fox is that they like it when there's a Democrat in office because that way they can attack, attack, attack. All they can do, everything he's doing is wrong. But when you get a
right.
Trump in office or a Bush, Now you got to defend him. And boy, those 4 years, these guys twisted themselves into pretzels, trying to defend whatever Looney Tune shit that guy came out with each week. And of course, it ended up costing them $750 million so far, in backing up his big lie that he won the election. But and I mean, nothing's going to stop of this. But like I said, that election yesterday should have been proof, and yet today I'm watching it. That's all they're talking about. Oh my God, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has got 24% of the vote. Are you kidding me?
Please.
I mean, all right, I remember. Here's a behind the scenes. So Obama's second term election night, I was directing all of the hits for Newspath, and I remember uh, we were coming up to the 11 o'clock hour, and they still hadn't called it because I think a couple of western states like Texas and California hadn't come in yet. And so the uh, the producer, the two producers, and the head of Newspath were in my little itty bitty control room, um, talking about. We had two tapes. All right, one tape was the Obama won, and the correspondent goes to Obama headquarters and he does that story. And the other tape was Obama lost, and we go to the Mitt Romney headquarters and we talk with that guy. Um, so the funny thing there was we had this thing called a beta cart, which was this big machine that you could put 40 uh, tapes into, and it would load them into one
Hmm.
of four machines, and then we could play them. We also had two external tape machines um, that we also used because we needed the extra tape machines, and more importantly, we needed them when the beta cart broke down, which usually happened 2, 3 times a night. So what I would do, because I was the director, I was also the technical director, and I was, it was my control room. I would put whatever the one we were actually going to use in my separate tape machine because it was right there and I could push the button. And I would put the backup one in the beta cart. So as I was sitting there at 10:30, listening to these two people have an almost 10-minute conversation about not that Obama was going to win or lose, but which tape should be put in the tape machine and which tape should be put in the beta cart, which I found rather amusing because it was none of their goddamn business. It's my job. They have no right
Right.
to tell me where to put my tapes, you know. And I mean,
Right.
if I really wanted to tell you where I thought I should put the tape, well, it
Yes.
one, I don't think it would. I don't think it would fit, and also it wouldn't play very well afterward. So, so now 11 o'clock came, and of course they called it instantly. But in that half hour, I was talking, because we have an intercom, a whole complex intercom system, and I was talking with the tape guys. No, the guys in production control, the guys that actually put us on the air, and of course they were talking about the polls are saying, it's too close to call. And this guy went, he said, "This is such bullshit." He said, "Just look at the betting odds." And I went, "What?" He said, "The betting odds." He said, "Go to Vegas. They have, you can bet on who's going to win a presidential election." And Obama's ahead like 3-1. Now, odds makers, uh, odds makers, they're not political. They're not pollsters. They're odds makers. Their job is to make the odds so that they win money. They can't afford to be
Right.
wrong. So they have no political dog in this fight. It's all about cash. And so if you even look at now, if you look at the betting odds, they're always different. So I don't know what else to say, but people just stop panicking.
Well, it's hard for them to stop panicking if they don't have some kind of entree into how it's done and why it's done as we do. And something I've been meaning to say since we began the podcast and we take our weekly uh, digs at the suits. Yes, we were there. for all these years, and you just said it earlier in this show, we were just as guilty because we did a lot of the same things, but we were following orders, obviously. And when we tried to point out the wrongness of what we were doing, we were told, go to your seat, sit down, and do what you're told. But it occurs to me that what we're also talking about has reared its ugly head with what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on with Israel and Hamas, and there are people coming on who are just saying things that are bouncing around in their mind, and they don't understand that what's happening in the Middle East right now is not a news story. There's a lot of history to it, and they're looking for good guys and bad guys. Why is Israel dropping non-smart bombs into the Gaza area? Why aren't they dumping smart bombs so civilians are not in harm's way? And they don't understand that there's not a bomb that smart. And they don't understand that this war that has gone on for God knows how many decades, how many centuries, you don't have a clear good guy, you don't have a clear bad guy. But that's what they're trying to go in the direction of. And why are they doing that? And someone said on one of the networks yesterday, polls show that we have to understand who's good and who's bad in the Middle East. If that is not lacking some intelligence about how the world has evolved over time, I don't know what. But what we're looking for in the media is the most simple way to get the audience angry and aggravated. Stephen Colbert, and he's a favorite here, and he had John Dickerson on the other night talking about what's going on in the Middle East. And Stephen was, Mr. Colbert, if you will, was pointing out all the things that are happening, including all of the people who have been killed, families devastated. And then he just looked at Dickerson and said, well, why is it this way? And Dickinson just smiled and said, it isn't as simple as black and white. I couldn't answer this if you gave me a half an hour. It takes a long time to divvy up why all this is happening, what the motivations are behind it. And people are interested. When I try to bring it up for Face the Nation or whatever it is he hosts, the producers of those programs say we have to stay focused. We can't lose any of the viewers to ABC or NBC. We have to keep the audience in the palm of our hands. We need them to be angry about this, and we know who the bad guys are. And polls show if you keep it clear, people will tune in. That's like if it bleeds, it leads.
No, the key part of your sentence is polls show. They are trapped, they are snorting their own drug. And
Yes,
and the other thing that drives me crazy is pundits. All right, it's the same ones
yes,
every year. All right, how do you get a pundit job? Because you already had a pundit job, and they all do the same thing. And you watch this. What I'm saying is absolutely going to happen. It's already happening. Um, the Democrats, Biden's problem is you've got to talk about the kitchen table issues. I hate that term.
yeah,
What the fuck is a kitchen table issue? All right. Oh, it's about the economy. It's about the economy, stupid. They love that. Well, yeah, it's about the economy. So what were the issues of Tuesday's election? Abortion, 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 and abortion. Maybe a little climate change thrown in there. All right. The kids
right,
today who are starting to vote in large numbers because they've woken up and realized that this is their world and they're going to be around a lot longer than we are. And we are fucking everything up 3 ways from Sunday. And they're not worried about kitchen table issues. They want A, the right to an abortion, B, the right to go to school and not worry about if they're going to get shot, but when they're going to get shot. And three, climate change. That when they're in their 30s, they might be living in a planet that is really not a fun place to be. And
right,
I applaud them. I mean, let's face it, they were us. Let's go back to the 60s. We were the big rebels. and we had a lot to rebel against. Everybody forgets the 60s came about because the 50s were so fucked up.
Yes, yes,
Okay? I mean,
yes,
I, misogyny, it was not, not great. And we thought we'd, solved it. Where the Civil Rights Act, the ERA came out. All of a sudden, it was okay to be gay, or at least it should be okay to be gay. And we
yeah.
went out and we protested. Hundreds of thousands of us protested. We were against war, the Vietnam War. I was there at the April protest of the Vietnam War in 1970, I think. I had a press pass. I was there for WVHC, and I was on the
Hmm.
base of the Capitol steps, looking out at a sea of people. Every street was just a sea of humanity, and I was standing behind Country Joe and the Fish, and they were singing the Fish song. Give me an F,
Right,
F. Give me an I, I. Well, they weren't spelling fish, okay? Give me an F, F. Give me a
right.
U, U. Give me a C. And I got to sit there and what's that spell? And 400,000 people would shout out, what's that spell? And I went, this is
Yes.
like one of the greatest days of my life. So we tried, and we're all back here doing it all over again. I just don't know, what to say anymore except stop listening to polls.
You know, when we
Well,
cover those kind of things, the demonstrations you were just talking about, it's clear that people are unhappy. Uh, I recall, let's go back to the 70s and 80s and the height of the anti-Vietnam demonstrations. The suits again said, well, the people in those demonstrations don't really represent the United States. They're kids, they're hippies, they're taking drugs, they don't understand the complexity of war. What they need to do is go to school, take classes, get a job. They shouldn't be here bad mouthing the country that takes care of them. They don't understand what's going on. And you flip the page and you come back with that story and you say to your boss, here's what they were saying in the street. Oh, we saw what they were saying. They were yelling profanities. They just don't know what's going on. They're not educated. Their parents don't take care of them. No, no, that's not what they were saying. Well, how do you know? Because I was there. We have it on tape if you don't believe me. No, I was watching it. They're all, there were people of color, there were these people, and they're just not to be trusted. And when you would offer the reminder that the people you're talking about, the people you're bad mouthing, these are the people of the future. When you're gone, they will be in control of things. You need to understand that they're telling you a clear message. Well, it doesn't fit into our format. What do you mean your format? Your format is supposedly reporting the news, the facts. Well, it's not going to get us ratings. The polls show that people don't want complex stories. And the polls show that these people, they're young people, they're not smart, they're troublemakers.
yeah, I've become a fan of a thing online on YouTube called the Midas Touch Network. Okay, they they're a bunch of lawyers. It started out with these three brothers, the Mycelis Ben Mycelis and his two brothers, and then he teamed with another lawyer named Michael Popak, and they do a show twice a week called Legal AF, where they go into the weeds about everything that's going on in basically with Trump and all the trials and politics. Um, they recently passed 1.5 million subscribers. On any given night, when these guys go live, they might have 2 million or more viewers. Okay. They have 2
Okay.
million subscribers, but when their little hits that they do every day average 200,000, 300,000. These are cable news numbers. Okay? These are numbers that Fox, that MSNBC, that CNN would kill for. Okay. And
Yeah.
what these guys are doing is they're simply telling the truth. All right. They're unapologetically pro democracy. All right.
Right.
And they do dump on the mainstream media for doing all the crap that I've been dumping on. And I think maybe the reason it bothers me as much as it does is because I worked at CBS for 40 years. I took this stuff really seriously. CBS is the Tiffany news network. We had
Right.
a reputation,
Right.
have a reputation. I still think we do. And it really bothers me when when the mainstream media does this. Now they're not going to change. Um, all right, here's a perfect example. January 6th, when all this crap was happening, it was the interns that worked for the congressmen and the senators that took charge. They they told them what to do, where to hide, how to turn off the lights, go here. Why? Because they had learned this all through high school, junior high school, and elementary school. They had been
Right.
trained in active armed shooting situations that these congressmen
Right.
had never experienced. Um, there is a picture. I will try to bring it up. It's a famous picture. It's adorable. It's a couple of years old. It's this. If I bring it up, it's this adorable little 3 year old whose mother came in the bathroom and found her standing on the toilet seat in their bathroom, and it was adorable. So she took a picture of it, and then she asked her, "Why are you, why are you standing on the toilet seat?" And she said, "This is what they teach us in preschool to do when the shooters come."
Uh,
All right, it it went viral on Facebook, as well it should. Um,
yeah.
so you know, I just wish, but you're right. It's all about ratings. I
Yes.
mean, it's all about ratings, or and what they perceive will get ratings. And yes, sadly, the Facebook and the social media figured this out. The algorithm, people watch longer if they're angry and mad and afraid than if they're happy. They will watch something that makes them afraid longer than they will watch something that makes them feel good.
And again, excuse me for interrupting you. You were talking about this plus this. I believe it was last week's show, talking about how the media backs off. I think if I can quote you, you said they don't have the balls. We were talking about uh, how the media doesn't really give us an accurate face of violence, malevolence, of damage done by bullets to bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I recall somewhere back, I'm not clear on the year, but I was doing a piece for our Urban Affairs show, and it had to do with youngsters being killed as a collateral damage in gang wars. And we would show pictures of the suspects. We would show the scene where it happened, but it had since been cleaned up. And in the back of my head, that particular week, that particular day, was Emmett Till. You mentioned Emmett Till last week. And I remember as a child, we used to get Jet magazine and Ebony magazine, which were, they were in every home of people of color. And I remember I must have been like 10 or 11 or something like that. And I remember, I think it was Ebony, and on its cover, they had that infamous shot of Emmett Till after he had been done in. And it just burned, seared through my mind. I didn't grasp why or what it was about. And someone, maybe my parents or one of my uncles or aunts said, well, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And I remember saying, well, why did they do that? And it was explained to me, and that image stayed with me. So fast forward many decades. And so I suggested we go back and use that Emmett Till still, and the producers of the show said, "Yeah, that's a good idea, and we can stretch it out. That's a great idea." Come showtime, found out that we couldn't use the still. Why not? Well, the idea had been kicked up to the general manager who said, "No, it's too horrific." the viewers won't accept it. And it's really unfair to show this to people of color because it makes them feel really bad. And I said, well, that's the whole idea. So I said, well, why couldn't we use that Emmett Till photograph? Well, I'm not sure legally we can do it. Of course we can. And I was left with, I'm sorry, polls show that when you run this kind of video, viewers will turn off and go to find good news.
Good
It
news.
just
God
doesn't change.
almighty. Yes, it doesn't change, and our rants probably won't change it. But wow, have we run over? I really thought we were going to have a hard time filling this half hour. Boy, when will I learn? So anyway, let's get to the plugs. Of course, Serendipity Seeking Intelligent Life on Earth, Maryland's blog. We all contribute to it. It's a lot of fun. Voicescapes Audio Theater, we just performed recently at the Westport Rotary Club. Had a great time. It's up online. You can see it. It's really a lot of fun. A half-hour radio show, still there, still funny. And, of course, my sister podcast, Get Off My Lawn with Me, where we talk about life, the universe, and everything. Gary, we will continue this next week. We had other stuff to get to, but as usual, we didn't. So until then, see ya.
Adios.